Close your eyes, sweet one. Let your head sink a little deeper into the pillow. Let every muscle soften as the gentle rain begins to fall outside your window. Tiny silver drops tapping softly against the glass like fingers made of water, inviting you to drift, inviting you to listen. Tonight I'm going to whisper you the entire story of Coraline. Every hidden corner, every shiver, every heartbeat, every secret button, and every shadow that crawls. And I will do it so slowly, so tenderly, that by the time the last page turns, you will already be floating in the warmest sleep. Imagine you are curled beneath the softest blanket, the room lit only by the faint blue glow of moonlight slipping through the curtains, and my voice is right here, brushing against your ear, barely louder than your own breathing. I'm holding an old leather-bound book in my hands. You can probably hear the gentle creak as I open it. Feel the cool air that moves when the pages part. The paper smells faintly of vanilla and dust and long-forgotten gardens, and on the very first page, written in swirling ink, is the name Coraline Jones. This is a bedtime story about a brave, curious, blue-haired girl who moved into an old pink house that had been divided into flats. A house full of creaking floors and wallpaper that peeled like tired skin. A house surrounded by fog and poison oak, and the low hum of insects that never quite sounded friendly. And somewhere inside that house, behind a tiny locked door in the drawing room, waited another world. A world that wanted her more than anything. But before we step through that little door, let me tell you something small and magical. Did you know that Neil Gaiman wrote the first lines of Coraline for his own daughter when she was only 5? And he kept writing it, chapter by chapter, every time she asked for more. So in a way, this whole tale grew out of a father whispering bedtime stories in the dark. Just like I'm doing for you right now. Take a slow breath with me, in and out. Feel your shoulders melt. Feel the weight of the day sliding away. Because tonight you are safe. Tonight you are loved. And tonight you are allowed to be as curious as Coraline herself. Have you ever moved to a new place and felt the walls watching you, waiting to see if you belong? Coraline did. She felt it the moment the removal men carried in the last box. She felt it in the way the floorboards sighed under her sneakers, in the way the light switches clicked too loudly, in the way her parents were always too busy typing on their computers to really look at her. I wonder when was the last time you felt truly seen, really truly seen, by someone who noticed the color of your thoughts. Hold that feeling gently. We're going to carry it with us like a tiny lantern as we follow Coraline down the corridor, past the dusty portraits of long-dead relatives, toward the little door that should not have been there at all. The rain outside is getting softer now, almost like it's listening too, and the pages of my fingers are so thin, so delicate, they make the quietest crinkle when I turn them. Just enough to send a shiver of tingles down your spine. Good. Let those tingles travel. Let them loosen every knot, every worry, every thought that says you have to stay awake. You don't. You can let go because I've got you. I'm right here, and Coraline's story is only just beginning. Are you comfortable? Is the blanket tucked under your chin just the way you like it? Good. Then let's begin. Really, begin with the very first morning in the Pink Palace apartments, when Coraline woke up to the sound of rain dripping from the gutter and decided in her fierce and stubborn heart that she was going to explore everything, even if no one else cared to come with her. Shush! Just listen. Just breathe. And let the story wrap around you like the coziest dream you've ever had. The rain is still falling, soft and steady, like a lullaby made of water, and the old house is breathing with us. Slow, deep, creaking breaths that smell of wet wood and roses left too long in a vase. Coraline wakes up on her first real morning in the Pink Palace apartments. Her room is cold. The wallpaper is a faded green with tiny yellow flowers that look like they're trying to crawl away. She stretches under the heavy quilt. Her toes curl against the chilly sheets, and she can already hear her mother downstairs clacking on the computer keys like impatient insects. She pulls on her yellow rain boots, the ones with the little frogs around the top, and her striped shirt and her orange sweater with the stars. Her blue hair sticks out in every direction like she's been electrocuted by curiosity. She grabs her gray raincoat, the one that makes her look like a detective from an old movie, and she steps into the corridor. The floorboards greet her with gentle wooden sighs, each one a different note, like the house is humming a secret song only she can hear. Her father is hunched over his desk, glasses sliding down his nose. He tells her to go explore, but don't get into trouble. His voice is kind, but far away, as if he's already halfway inside his computer screen. Her mother doesn't even look up, just says, "Wear your boots. It's muddy." And Coraline feels that familiar pinch in her chest, the one that says nobody is really here with her. Not really. Have you ever felt that pinch when the people you love most want to notice you are looking right through you? Let it soften now. Let the rain wash it away, because Coraline is about to meet the world outside, and even if her parents are busy, the fog is waiting, the garden is waiting, and something ancient and strange is already watching her from the windows upstairs. She steps into the garden. The air smells sharp and green, wet earth and rotting apples and something metallic underneath. The grass is so tall it brushes her knees. She finds a stick and starts poking at things. An old tennis ball covered in slime, a rusted watering can with a hole shaped like a screaming mouth, and then she sees him. Wybie Lovat riding up on his noisy motorbike that sounds like an angry wasp. He's wearing a skeleton mask, and his coat is too big, and his hair is even wilder than hers. He skids to a stop and stares at her. She stares back, and the first thing he does is call her Caroline. She corrects him. It's Coraline, with an O, and you can hear the spark of irritation in her voice, but also something like relief, because at least someone is talking to her, even if he's weird, even if he smells like oil and damp leaves. Wybie tells her his grandmother owns the Pink Palace, that the house used to be whole before they split it into flats, that his great-aunt disappeared here when she was little, and he hands her something small and wrapped in newspaper, a doll that looks exactly like her, blue hair, yellow raincoat, button eyes. Coraline feels a cold prickle along her arms. The doll's stitched smile is too wide, too knowing. She asks where he found it, and he says, "Up in the attic. It was just sitting there, waiting." That word waiting, it hangs in the damp air like a spider web, and Coraline tucks the doll into her pocket even though it feels wrong, like holding a tiny frozen version of herself. They walk together toward the old well. Wybie talks nonstop, his voice high and nervous. He tells her the well is so deep that if you drop a stone, it takes forever to hear the splash. Coraline leans over the edge. The darkness down there smells of stone and secrets and something sweet rotten. She drops a pebble, 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds. Then a tiny wet plink, like the well is swallowing the sound. Do you ever lean over the edge of something dark inside yourself, just to see how deep it goes? It's okay. Tonight you don't have to look. Tonight you can just listen to the rain and let my voice carry you safely past every well. Later that afternoon, Coraline meets the neighbors downstairs, Miss Spink and Miss Forcible. Two retired actresses living in the basement flat, surrounded by dusty posters and stuffed Scotty dogs that stare with glassy eyes. Miss Spink is round and smells of talcum powder and tea. Miss Forcible is thin and smells of gin and old perfume. They read Coraline's tea leaves and tell her she's in terrible danger. The leaves form a hand, a horrible hand, but then they laugh and say, "Oh, don't mind us, dearie, we're just old." And they give her a stone with a hole in it, a seeing stone. For bad things, they say. Coraline rolls her eyes, but slips it into her pocket next to the button-eyed doll. Upstairs in the attic lives Mr. Babinski, the amazing jumping mouse circus man. His skin is the color of a blueberry. He wears a medal from Chernobyl and does cartwheels in the beet garden. He tells Coraline the mice have a message for her. They say, "Do not go through little door." His accent is thick, and his breath smells of pickled beets. Coraline thinks everyone here is completely insane, and maybe they are, but the mice know something. They always do. Trivia time. Did you know that in the original book, the other mother is never named, but in the film she's called the Beldam, an old word for witch? Henry Selick chose that name because it sounds like Bedlam, beautiful chaos, just like the other world when you first step inside. The day ends with Coraline back in her room, the doll sitting on the dresser watching her with its shiny black buttons, the rain tapping harder now, almost urgent, and she lies in bed listening to the house settle the way old houses do, with pops and groans and long tired sighs. She thinks about how nobody ever says her name right, how nobody ever listens, how she wishes just for a moment that someone would make her the center of the universe. And somewhere in the walls, something small and papery scuttles, like dry leaves or tiny fingers, testing the plaster, looking for the little door that has been locked for a very long time. Good. Let your eyelids grow heavier. Let the sound of rain fill every corner of your mind. We are only just beginning, and there is still so much wonder and so much danger waiting behind that little door. But you are safe, you are warm, and I am right here, whispering every tiny detail just for you. The house is asleep now, but it is not a peaceful sleep. It is the kind of sleep that listens. The rain has softened into a silver hush, and every drop that slides down the window pane sounds like a secret being told too late. Coraline lies on her back in the dark, staring at the ceiling where moonlight paints slow-moving rivers of gray and lavender. The button-eyed doll sits on the chair across the room, its head tilted just enough that the black shine of its eyes seems to follow the rise and fall of her chest. She whispers to it, half angry, half pleading, "I'm not scared of you," but the words feel thin in the cold air like soap bubbles that pop before they reach the wall. Downstairs she can hear the faint clack-clack of her mother's keyboard, the occasional mutter of her father talking to his screen. No one has come to check on her. No one has said good night. The loneliness sits on her ribs like a cat made of iron. And in that heavy quiet, Coraline hears it for the first time. A soft scraping behind the wallpaper in the drawing room, like mice wearing velvet gloves, or like something much larger trying very hard to be small. She slips out of bed, bare feet silent on the chilly floorboards, and pads down the corridor. The house smells of old roses and wet plaster. She carries the big iron key her mother used to lock the little door earlier that day, the one hidden behind the faded wallpaper with the hunting scene. Her fingers tremble, but only a little. Curiosity is stronger than fear tonight. She peels back the paper. It comes away with a tired sigh. revealing the small red door no bigger than a dog flap. The key turns with a click that feels enormous in the stillness, and the door swings inward onto a tunnel of pulsing purple-blue light, brick walls breathing gently like lungs made of velvet. Coraline hesitates. The air flowing out smells sweet, warm vanilla, fresh bread, something like her grandmother's kitchen the one time she was allowed to stay over. She looks back once toward the dark hallway where her real life waits, then steps through. The tunnel is soft under her knees, like crawling through midnight-colored moss. The light grows brighter, warmer, and suddenly she tumbles out the other side and lands on the exact same drawing room carpet, except everything is richer. The wallpaper blooms with impossible roses, the color of fresh blood and ripe peaches. The lamps glow with honey-colored light that feels like being hugged. The air smells of cinnamon and butter and something electric, like the moment before lightning. And there, in the kitchen doorway, stands her other mother. She is tall and beautiful in a way that makes Coraline's heart ache with want. Her skin is pale porcelain, her hair black and shining like spilled ink, and her smile wide and perfect. She wears a red turtleneck and dark trousers, and where her eyes should be are two glossy black buttons that somehow still manage to sparkle with love. "Hello, darling," she says, and her voice is warm syrup poured over pancakes. "I've been waiting for you. Dinner's ready." Coraline's real mother never calls her darling. Coraline's real mother never cooks anything that smells this good. She follows the other mother into the kitchen, where the table is piled high with roast chicken glistening with butter, mashed potatoes fluffy as clouds, gravy so rich it looks black in the lamplight, tiny peas shining like emeralds, warm bread rolls, cocoa with mountains of whipped cream. The other father is already sitting there, rounder and jollier than her real father, wearing a striped waistcoat and playing a jaunty tune on a piano that grows straight out of the wall like a cheerful fungus. He beams at her with button eyes and sings in a voice like a hug, "Coraline, sweet Coraline, you're home at last." They eat, and every bite is perfection. The chicken skin crackles. The cocoa warms her all the way to her toes. The other mother strokes her hair and says over and over how much she's missed her, how special she is, how this world was made just for her. Coraline feels something inside her chest unclench for the first time since the move. She laughs. She talks. She feels seen. Really seen. After dinner, they take her to the garden that stretches impossibly far under a sky full of fireworks shaped like flowers. The other Wybie is there, grinning silently because the other mother hasn't given him a mouth yet. But his button eyes are kind, and he does perfect cartwheels just to make her giggle. The other Miss Spinkenforcible perform an aerial acrobatics on silk ribbons that shimmer like soap bubbles, their bodies young and strong again, laughing in voices like champagne. Even the Scotty dogs are alive, barking joyfully and licking her face with warm tongues. Later, tucked into a bed that feels like being cradled by clouds, the other mother kisses her forehead with lips that taste of sugar and promises. "You can stay forever," she whispers, stroking Coraline's hair. "All you have to do is let me love you completely." Coraline sleeps deeper than she has in months, wrapped in warmth and the soft clicking of buttons being polished somewhere far away. Have you ever been offered a love that felt too perfect? A place where every hurt was magically erased? Did a tiny voice inside you whisper that perfection always hides a price? Let that whisper drift away tonight. You don't have to solve anything. Just rest. The next morning, Coraline crawls back through the tunnel, heart light, cheeks flushed. She bursts into the real kitchen, expecting her parents to be angry she was gone all night. But they only glance up mildly and say they didn't even notice. The real world feels gray and papery after the richness of the other. The food tastes like cardboard. The light is cold. Her parents barely look at her. She runs back to the little door that very afternoon. The other mother is waiting with a red velvet box. Inside are 2 shiny black buttons and a needle threaded with black silk. "To stay forever," she coos. "You only need to let me sew these on, then you'll never have to leave. Then you'll be mine completely." Coraline stares at the needle, glinting like a fang. Something cold slides down her spine. She backs away. I have to think about it," she says, and flees back through the tunnel. That night, the other mother's voice follows her. Coraline wakes to find the button-eyed doll sitting on her chest, heavier than it should be, staring. When she runs to her parents for help, they are gone. Only an empty car in the driveway, and a snow globe on the mantel with tiny figures of them trapped inside, waving silently. A note in the other mother's perfect curling handwriting. "Come back soon, darling, or they stay here forever." Trivia for your sleepy mind. The snow globe prison was Henry Selick's own invention for the film. In the book, the parents are simply hidden in the mirror. Selick said he wanted something small and ordinary turned terrifying, like how the things we take for granted can become cages when love turns possessive. Coraline sits on the floor of the empty house, hugging her knees, rain hammering the windows like it wants to break in. For the first time, she is truly frightened. Not the fun frightened of ghost stories, but the deep, shaking kind that tastes metallic on the tongue. She thinks of the other mother's smile stretching a little too wide, the way the other father's song had started to sound slightly off-key toward the end, the way the garden fireworks had begun to look like screaming faces. Have you ever realized, too late, that someone's love had teeth? That the arms holding you were also locking the door? Breathe with me. In slowly, out slowly. You are safe here. No one is asking you to trade your eyes for love tonight. Coraline wipes her tears, squares her small shoulders, and marches back to the little door. This time she carries the seeing stone from Miss Spink and Forcible in one pocket. The black cat, who followed her without being asked, pads silently at her side. "Let's go get my parents back," she says, voice trembling but fierce. The cat's green eyes gleam like he's smiling. She steps through the tunnel one more time, and everything has already begun to rot. The tunnel feels different now, narrower, colder, as though the velvet walls have begun to bruise. Each breath Coraline takes tastes of iron and burnt sugar. The purple-blue light that once welcomed her has dimmed to a sickly violet, flickering like a dying television. When she crawls out into the other drawing room, the wallpaper roses have started to drip, very slowly, bleed. Thick crimson drops slide down the paper and vanish before they reach the floor, leaving dark stains that look like handprints. The other mother stands in the doorway to the kitchen, still smiling, but the smile is too wide now. The corners of her red lips have split just a little, revealing porcelain-white gums and the glint of something sharp. Her button eyes shine with a wet, hungry light. "You came back, darling," she croons, voice syrupy but cracking at the edges like old varnish. I knew you would. Mothers always know. She opens her arms, and Coraline sees that her fingers have grown longer, jointed like a spider's legs, black and glossy as the buttons themselves. Coraline's heart is hammering so hard she can feel it in her teeth. She forces her voice to stay steady. Where are my real parents? The other mother tilts her head with a soft click, click, click of porcelain joints. Safe, she says sweetly. Safe and waiting for you to finish what we started. She lifts the needle and black thread again, letting the thread dangle like a dead worm. Just say yes, love. Then everything can be perfect again. Coraline backs away. The floorboards beneath her feet have turned spongy, pulsing faintly, as if the house itself has a heartbeat. The cat slips past her legs and hisses, back arched, tail bristled like a bottle brush. The other mother's smile twitches. Naughty puss, she whispers, and with one impossibly long finger she flicks the cat across the room. He hits the wall with a soft thud and lies still. Coraline screams, but the sound is swallowed by the thick air. The other mother begins to change. Her skin cracks along the seams like a porcelain doll dropped on concrete. White shards fall away, revealing something tall and thin and black underneath, something made of needle legs and hunger. The red turtleneck splits, the fabric writhing into a funeral dress of tattered velvet. Her arms stretch, 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 until the fingers scrape the ceiling with a sound like knives on chalk. The button eyes pop loose on silver threads and dangle, swinging gently, still watching Coraline with terrible love. She is the Beldam now, fully, completely, and the house groans in ecstasy around her. Coraline runs. She tears through corridors that weren't there yesterday, past windows that show only swirling gray fog, past doors that open onto nothing. The wallpaper peels itself from the walls in long, wet strips and tries to wrap around her ankles. She kicks free and keeps running, lungs burning, tears streaming hot down her cheeks. Behind her, the Beldam's voice echoes, no longer sweet. Now a dry insect clicking that fills every corner. Don't you love me, darling? Don't you want to stay? Coraline bursts into the other father's study. He is slumped over his desk, his body sagging like a deflated balloon. The piano fungus on the wall has wilted into black slime. His head jerks up when she enters. One button eye is cracked, leaking something like tar. Sorry, kiddo, he slurs, voice bubbling. She's angrier than usual. Run! His arms have turned into mechanical gardening tools, huge rusted shears that snap open and closed against his will. He lunges at her. Coraline ducks, grabs a brass paperweight from the desk, and hurls it at the cracked button. It shatters. The other father collapses into a heap of soil and metal parts, sighing, "Thank you." She runs again, through the theater where the other Spink and Forcible have fused into a single, grotesque, taffy-colored creature that moans her name in two voices, through the garden where the flowers now have tiny sharp teeth, and the sky is full of screaming fireworks. The other YB finds her there, silent as ever, but his stitched mouth has been ripped open into a terrified scream. He grabs her hand, cold fabric fingers squeezing tight, and pulls her toward the tunnel. They tumble through together. For one breathless second, Coraline thinks they've made it, but the tunnel is collapsing behind them, bricks turning to dust, the sweet smell replaced by rot. They burst into the real drawing room and slam the little door. Coraline scrabbles for the key, hands shaking so badly she almost drops it, and locks the door just as something enormous slams against it from the other side. The wood bulges inward. Black needle fingers worm through the cracks like smoke. The cat, limping but alive, leaps onto the door and yowls. The fingers recoil as if burned. Coraline grabs the heavy iron key and the seeing stone, wraps them in a tea towel with the doll, and runs upstairs to hide them in the fireplace, deep in the cold ashes. But the beldam is clever. That night, Coraline wakes to find the little door standing open again, even though she locked it. The tunnel glows red now, like the inside of a throat, and in the morning her parents still haven't come home. Trivia whispered softly into your sleepy ear. The sound of the beldam's true form crawling was created by dragging a metal rake across a concrete floor and layering it with human fingernails scratching wood. Sweet dreams, darling. Coraline sits at the kitchen table, eating cold cereal that tastes like cardboard and fear. The black cat curls in her lap, purring to keep her calm. She looks at the seeing stone in her palm, the hole in its center perfectly round. When she lifts it to her eye, the world shifts. She can see faint silver threads stretching from the little door, threads leading into the mirror in the hallway, threads leading down into the dark of the basement, threads leading up to Mr. Babinski's flat. The beldam has been busy. Have you ever noticed the invisible threads that tie you to old fears, to people who still hold pieces of you, even when they're gone? Tonight, those threads are only made of moonlight, and moonlight can't hold you. Let them dissolve. Coraline wipes her eyes, stands up, and says aloud, "I'm not scared of you." The cat looks at her with something like pride. She is going to get her parents back, and she is going to end this, even if she has to burn the whole other world down. She gathers her courage like a blanket around her shoulders, slips the seeing stone on a string around her neck, and walks straight back to the little door one final time. Coraline stands in a yellow raincoat that now feels like armor, the seeing stone warm against her chest, the black cat padding beside her like living shadow, steps through the little door for the last time. The tunnel has become a throat of raw meat and velvet. It pulses, wet and slow, trying to swallow her footsteps. She keeps walking. The air tastes of rust and birthday cake gone sour. She emerges into what is left of the other world. The once rich house has collapsed into a gigantic spiderweb made of the beldam's own black thread. Every surface glitters with needles. The walls are now gray chitin, breathing. In, out, in the rhythm of something ancient and starving. The ceiling has vanished into a starless void where broken button eyes drift like dead moons. In the center of the web, suspended in silver strands, hang 3 small glowing marbles. Inside each marble, a child's soul flickers, pale blue, curled tight, whispering. And below them, trapped inside the snow globe on a pedestal of bone, her parents wave frantically, mouths open in silent screams. The beldam descends from the darkness on a thread as thick as Coraline's wrist. She is no longer pretending to be human. She is all angles and edges, a praying mantis stitched together from midnight and porcelain shards. Her mouth has become a sewing needle that opens and closes with wet clicks. 4 long jointed arms unfold, each finger ending in a sewing needle that drips black thread. The button eyes dangle on springs, swinging, clicking, hungry. "Welcome home, love," the Beldam sings in a voice made of 1,000 mothers scolding at once. "Let's play a game. Find your parents and the lost souls before I find you." Coraline lifts her chin. "Fine," she says, voice steady even though her knees want to fold. "But if I win, you let them all go forever, and you never come through the door again." The Beldam's needle mouth curves in something that might be a smile. "Agreed, sweet meat." The game begins. First, the other father's garden, now a wasteland of mechanical pumpkins with razor teeth and vines that try to wrap around Coraline's ankles. The cat leaps and slashes, buying her time. She spots the faint glow of a soul marble inside the largest pumpkin. Using the seeing stone, she sees the weak point, a single loose stitch, and yanks it. The pumpkin explodes into sawdust, and the first soul floats free, whispering "thank you" in a voice like wind chimes. Second, the theater, now a cocoon of taffy pink flesh. The fused, spink-enforceable creature performs an endless tragic ballet, tears of pearls falling upward. Coraline climbs the silk ropes while the creature sings in minor keys that make her bones ache. She finds the second marble sewn inside the creature's heart. With trembling fingers, she cuts the thread with a shard of broken stage light. The creature sighs, splits gently in half, and dissolves into rose petals. The second soul drifts upward, smiling. Third, Mr. Babinski's attic, now an ocean of writhing blue skin and jumping mice with human teeth. The mice chant in tiny voices. "She'll eat you last if you're good." Coraline almost vomits, but she sees the final marble suspended inside Babinski's metal, which has grown to the size of a wagon wheel. She tricks the mice into forming a living ladder, climbs and smashes the metal with the brass paperweight she still carries. The third soul tumbles free, laughing like silver bells. The Beldam scream shakes the web. Threads snap and whip through the air like angry snakes. Coraline races back to the center. The snow globe is now guarded by the other Wybe, his face fully torn open into a silent scream of loyalty and terror. He doesn't want to hurt her, but the Beldam's threads are sewn through his cloth heart. Coraline whispers, "I'm sorry," and cuts the threads. The other Wybe collapses into a pile of rags and buttons, but one rag hand lifts in a tiny grateful wave before he fades. She snatches the snow globe. The Beldam descends in full fury, arms flailing, needle fingers stabbing. Coraline hurls the globe to the ground. It shatters. Her parents tumble out, dazed, covered in frost, blinking in the violet light. "Coraline," her mother whispers, finally saying her name right. There is no time for hugs. The web is collapsing. The Beldam shrieks and lunges. Coraline grabs her parents' hands and runs, the cat streaking ahead, the 3 freed souls swirling around them like fireflies. They dive into the tunnel as the entire other world folds in on itself, with a sound like 1,000,000 buttons hitting concrete. They burst into the real drawing room. Coraline's father slams the door, but the Beldam's hand, severed at the wrist, still clutching, crawls across the carpet on needle fingers. Coraline screams, grabs the heavy tea table, and slams it down again and again until the hand is only twitching threads. She and her parents together push the table against the little door, pile chairs on top, drag the sofa, anything heavy. The door bulges once, twice, then goes still. Silence. Only rain on the windows and their ragged breathing. Trivia. Soft as moth wings. The severed hand crawling was performed using a real glove filled with walnut shells and fishing line, each frame moved by hand. Stop-motion love that took weeks for 30 seconds of nightmare. Coraline's mother kneels, arms open. Coraline falls into them. Her father wraps around both of them. No one speaks for a long time. They just hold each other, while the rain slows to a lullaby. Have you ever come home after the longest night and realized home was never the walls? It was the arms waiting on the other side? Feel those arms around you now. Even if they're only made of memory and blanket, feel them. Later, when the sky clears, Coraline helps Wybie's grandmother finally lay flowers at the old well for the sister she lost long ago. The three freed souls, invisible but warm, brush against Coraline's cheek in thanks before drifting upward into sunlight. And in the garden, under real stars, Coraline's parents throw an actual party, not perfect, but loud and messy and full of burnt sausages and laughter. Coraline looks around at the crooked house, the poison oak, the cracked path, the people who sometimes forget her name, and smiles. Because real is better. Real is enough. The rain has almost stopped now, only the gentlest dripping from the gutters, like the house itself is letting out one last long sigh of relief. And you are so beautifully heavy, your arms and legs sinking deeper into the mattress, your breath slow and even, the way moonlight sinks into still water. Coraline stands in the garden the morning after everything, barefoot in the cool grass, dew wetting the hem of her pajamas. The sun is only just beginning to rise, painting the pink palace the softest rose gold, the same color it was when they first arrived, but now it feels different. The house no longer watches her with suspicion. It watches with something like gratitude, the way an old cat watches the child who finally learned how to scratch behind its ears. Her mother comes out carrying 2 chipped mugs of tea, steam curling up like friendly ghosts. She hands one to Coraline without a word, and for once she doesn't correct the way her mother says Caroline, because the name is spoken with love, and love has begun to sound exactly right. They stand side by side, shoulder to shoulder, watching the mist lift off the poison oak, watching Wybie's grandmother's old car pull slowly up the drive. The grandmother steps out, tall and thin and dressed in black, her face carved with decades of worry. She carries a small bunch of white lilies tied with twine. Coraline walks to meet her, and without planning it, takes the old woman's hand, free hand. The fingers are papery and trembling, but they squeeze back with surprising strength. Together, they walk to the old well, the one so deep it swallows sound. Wybie is already there, his mask gone, his hair flattened by the morning. He offers Coraline a tiny shy smile, the kind he never gave before his. Other self sacrificed everything to help her. They lower the lilies into the dark, one by one, until the water far below kisses them with the softest plink. Plink, plink, and Coraline feels the 3 souls brush past her cheeks again, lighter than breath, warmer than sunrise, saying goodbye, saying thank you. Do you feel that brush against your own cheek right now? That almost feather touch that isn't wind and isn't blanket, but is still there. letting you know you are not alone. Let it settle. Let it stay. Later that afternoon, the garden is full of people. Miss Spink and Miss Forcible in ridiculous sun hats, passing around scones and telling theatrical stories that make everyone groan. Mr. Bobinski does clumsy cartwheels, and the real jumping mice, perfectly ordinary, perfectly alive, ride on his shoulders. Coraline's father burns sausages on a tiny grill and laughs about it. Her mother dances badly to music from a tinny radio, and Coraline sits on the crooked porch steps with Wybie and the black cat, sharing a popsicle that drips purple down her wrist. She looks at the cracked path, the peeling paint, the overgrown roses that will probably never bloom perfectly, and she feels something settle inside her chest. Something quiet and strong and shining. The knowledge that perfect was never the point. The point was choosing every day to stay, to love, to explore, to come back. Trivia for your almost dreaming mind. Did you know that in the very last frame of the film, if you look closely at the garden flowers, they form the shape of Coraline's face, smiling? Henry Selick's secret thank you to every child who ever felt invisible, including you, especially you. The cat stretches in a patch of sunlight, yawns, and for one heartbeat his eyes flash from green to button black and back again. A tiny wink, a promise that the door is closed. But stories never truly end. They just wait, curled like cats, until someone brave is ready to dream again. Have you ever chosen the imperfect thing because it was real, and felt your heart grow 3 sizes in that moment? Hold that feeling. Let it be the last thing you carry across the border into sleep. The sun climbs higher. The voices in the garden soften. Someone starts singing off-key. The smell of charcoal and cut grass and warm tea. Coraline closes her eyes for just a second, and when she opens them again, the cat is gone. The lilies have vanished from the well, and the little door in the drawing room is only a flat wall now. Wallpaper smooth, no seam, no keyhole. Nothing but the faint outline of where it used to be, like a scar that finally healed. Night falls gently. The house settles into its familiar creaks and sighs. Coraline's parents tuck her in, kissing her forehead, saying her name correctly, lingering in the doorway until her breathing evens out. The seeing stone rests on her bedside table, no longer needed for seeing. Now just a smooth, cool worry stone for when the world feels too big. Outside, the moon is full and low, silvering the garden, silvering the well, silvering the roses that will bloom tomorrow in whatever colors they choose. And somewhere far away, 3 small souls dance among the stars, free forever. And you are dancing with them, weightless, warm, held. Let the last sound you hear be the softest page turning, the book closing with the gentlest thump, the rain finally stopping, the house exhaling one final, peaceful, contented breath. You did it. You stayed until the end. You were brave. You were curious. You were loved. Good night, sweet one. Good night, Coraline. Good night.